The story of a clever tailor. Once upon a time there lived an exceedingly proud princess. If any suitor for her hand ventured to present himself, she would give him some riddle or conundrum to guess, and if he failed to do so, he was hunted out of the town with scorn and derision. She gave out publicly that all comers were welcome to try their skill, and that whoever could solve her riddle should be her husband. Now, it happened that 3 tailors had met together, and the 2 elder thought that after having successfully put out so many fine and strong stitches with never a wrong one amongst them, they were certain to do the right thing here too. The 3rd tailor was a lazy young scamp who did not even know his own trade properly, but who thought that surely luck would stand by him now, just for once, for if not, what was ever to become of him? The 2 others said to him, "Just you stay at home. You'll never get on much with your small allowance of brains." But the little tailor was not to be daunted, and he had set his mind on it and meant to shift it for himself. So he started off through the whole world as if it belonged to him. The 3 tailors arrived at court, where they had themselves duly presented to the princess and begged she should propound her riddles. "For," they said, "here we are right men at last, with wits so sharp and so fine, almost thread a needle with them." Then said the princess, "I have on my head 2 different kinds of hair. Of what colors are they?" "If that's all," said the first tailor, "they're most likely black and white, like a kind of cloth we call salt and pepper." "Wrong," said the princess. "Then," said the second tailor, "if they're not black and white, no doubt they're red and brown, like my father's Sunday coat." "Wrong again," said the princess. "Now let the third speak. I see he thinks he knows all about it." Then the young tailor stepped boldly down to the front and said, "Princess has 1 silver and 1 golden hair on her head, and those are the 2 colors." When the princess heard this, she turned quite pale and almost fainted away with fear, for the little tailor had hit the mark, and she had firmly believed that not a soul could guess it. When she had covered herself, she said, "Don't fancy that you have won me yet. There is something else you must do first. Below the stable is a bear with whom you must spend the night, and when I get up in the morning I find you still alive. Then you shall marry me." Princesses. She quite expected to rid herself of the tailor this way, for the bear had never allowed anyone alive who had once come within reach of its claws. The tailor, however, had no notion of being scared, but said cheerily, "Bravely dared is half won." When evening came on, he was taken to the stable. The bear tried to get at him at once and to give him a warm welcome with his great paws. "Gently, gently," said the tailor. "I'll soon teach you to be quiet." And he coolly drew a handful of walnuts from his pocket and began cracking and eating them as though he had not a care or anxiety in the world. When the bear saw this, he began to long for some of the nuts himself. The tailor dived into his pocket and gave him a handful, but they were just pebbles, not nuts. The bear thrust them into his mouth, and try as he might, he could not manage to crack them. "Dear me," he thought, "what a stupid fool I must be. I can't even crack a nut." And he said to the tailor, "I say, my nuts crack for me, will you?" "You're a nice sort of fellow," said the tailor. "The idea of having those great jaws and not being able to crack a walnut." So he took the stone, quickly changed it for nuts, and crack! It split open in a moment. "Let me try that again," said the bear. "When I see the thing done, it looks so easy. I fancy I must be able to manage it myself." So the tailor gave him some more pebbles, and the bear bit and gnawed away as hard as he could. But I hardly need to say that he did not succeed in cracking one of them. Presently the tailor took out the little fiddle and began playing on it. When the bear heard the music, he could not help but dancing. And after he had danced for some time, he was so pleased that he said to the tailor, "I say, is fiddling difficult?" "Mere child's play," said the tailor. "Look here. You press the strings with the fingers on the left hand, and with the right you draw the bow across them, and then it goes as possibly up and down like this. Tra-la-la-la-la." "Oh," cried the bear, "I do wish I could play like that. Then I could dance whenever the fancy took me. What do you think? Would you give me some lessons?" "With all my heart," said the tailor, "if you are sharp about it. But just let me look at your paws. Dear me, your nails are terribly long. I really must cut them first." Then he fetched a pair of stocks and had the bear lay his paws on them, and the tailor screwed them up tight. "Now just wait while I fetch my scissors," he said, and left the bear growling away to his heart's content, while he lay down in the corner and fell fast asleep. When the princess heard the bear growling so loud that night, she made sure that he was roaring with delight as he worried the tailor. Next morning she rose feeling quite cheerful and free of care, but when she looked across to the stables, there stood the tailor in front of the door looking as fresh and as lively as a fish in water. After this it was impossible to break the promise she had made so publicly, so the king ordered out-of-state coach to take her and the tailor to a church to be married. As they were starting, two bad-hearted other tailors were envious of the younger one's happiness and went to the stable and unscrewed the bear. Off he tore after the carriage, foaming with rage. The princess heard the puffing and roaring, and growing frightful, she even cried, "Oh dear, the bear is after us and will certainly catch up to us." The tailor remained quite unmoved. He quietly stood on his head and stuck his legs out of the carriage window and called out to the bear, "Do you see my socks? If you don't go home this minute, I'll screw you tight into them." When the bear saw this and heard this, he turned right around and ran off as fast as his legs would carry him. The tailor drove on unmolested to the church, where he and the princess were married, and he lived with her many years as happy and as merry as a lark. Whoever does not believe this story must pay me $1.